The sun hung low in the sky, painting the earth in warm orange hues, as little Deborah clung to her mother's hand, her small fingers trembling. Tessie's face was a mask of conflicting emotions, guilt, fear, and desperation. Behind them, Obi walked with heavy steps, his eyes fixed on the dusty road ahead, refusing to look back at the tiny girl who skipped along, oblivious to the storm brewing in her parents' hearts. Deborah was only 6 years old, too young to understand the whispers in her home, the arguments that erupted late at night, or the sudden change in her parents' demeanor. All she knew was that they were taking her to see Auntie Amara, a woman she had never met but had been promised was kind and loving. "Will Auntie Amara let me play with her dolls?" Deborah asked, her wide, innocent eyes glancing up at Tessie. Tessie choked on her response and nodded, unable to trust her voice. Obi gritted his teeth, his fists clenching at his sides. They arrived at a deserted bus stop on the outskirts of Asaba, where the forest crept close to the road, its shadows long and eerie in the fading light. Tessie knelt to Deborah's level, cupping the girl's cherubic face. "Stay here, my baby. Auntie Amara will come for you soon." "But where are you going?" Deborah asked, her voice tinged with confusion. "We'll be back soon," Obi muttered, avoiding her gaze. Tessie kissed Deborah's forehead, tears streaming down her face. She turned quickly, grabbing Obi's arm, and they walked away without looking back. Deborah waited, clutching her small bag of toys. The hours dragged on, the chirping of crickets replacing the hum of distant cars. Fear crept in as the sky darkened, and the realization began to sink in. Her parents were not coming back. Deborah wandered into the forest, drawn by the flicker of fireflies. She was cold, hungry, and terrified, but something about the soft glow of the insects felt comforting. She followed them deeper into the woods until she stumbled upon a dilapidated shack hidden among the trees. An elderly woman with piercing eyes and a crooked back emerged from the shadows. Her name was Mama Joy, and she was known in the nearby villages as a reclusive herbalist, some even whispering that she was a witch. "What are you doing here, child?" Mama Joy asked, her voice rough but not unkind. "My mummy and daddy left me," Deborah replied, tears streaming down her face. Mama Joy sighed, a mix of pity and frustration clouding her features. "Come inside." The shack was cluttered with jars of herbs, dried animal parts, and strange carvings. Deborah sat on a stool, her tiny frame dwarfed by the overwhelming chaos of the room. Mama Joy handed her a bowl of steaming yam porridge, and Deborah devoured it, her hunger momentarily silencing her fear. "You can stay," Mama Joy said, "but you'll have to earn your keep." The years passed, and Deborah became Mama Joy's apprentice. She learned to identify herbs, mix potions, and decipher the cryptic symbols etched into the walls of the shack. She also learned resilience, crafting a new life from the shards of her shattered past. But the shadows of abandonment never truly left her. At night, she would dream of Tessie and Obi, their faces blurred yet hauntingly familiar. She wondered why they had left her, whether they regretted their decision, and if they ever thought of her. Mama Joy, though gruff, grew fond of Deborah. "You're a strong girl," she often said. "Stronger than most. The world tried to break you, but look at you now." At 16, Deborah had grown into a beautiful and intelligent young woman. She had mastered the art of healing, her reputation spreading across the villages. But she carried a fierce determination in her heart, a desire to find her parents and demand answers. One fateful day, a man arrived at Mama Joy's shack, his face pale and his steps unsteady. He collapsed at the doorway, clutching his chest. Deborah rushed to his aid, her hands steady as she prepared a concoction to ease his pain. As she worked, she noticed something familiar about him. The shape of his jaw, the tilt of his head. It wasn't until he opened his eyes and whispered, "Deborah," that she realized the truth. It was Obi. Deborah froze, the bowl of herbs slipping from her hands and shattering on the floor. "You know me?" Obi's face crumpled, tears spilling down his cheeks. "You're my daughter. My Deborah." Mama Joy, who had been watching from the corner, stepped forward. "What is the meaning of this?" Obi explained in halting words, his guilt and sorrow evident. Tessie, and he had abandoned Deborah because of financial hardship and societal pressure. Tessie's family had disowned her for marrying Obi, and they had struggled to make ends meet. When a neighbor suggested leaving Deborah in the care of a wealthy but distant relative, they'd seen it as their only option. But their plan had gone awry, and they had never been able to locate Deborah again. "I searched for you," Obi said, his voice breaking. "Every day for years. Your mother, she couldn't bear it. She died 2 years ago, Deborah." From the guilt, Deborah's world tilted. The woman she had longed for, hated, and loved in equal measure was gone. And the man who had abandoned her now sat before her, broken and repentant. Deborah didn't know whether to scream, cry, or run. "You left me to die," she shouted, her voice echoing in the small room. "Do you have any idea what I went through? The nights I spent wondering why I wasn't enough for you." Obi wept openly, his once strong frame trembling. "I was a coward, Deborah. I failed you, but I never stopped loving you." Mama Joy placed a hand on Deborah's shoulder. "Forgiveness is a powerful medicine, child, but it is your choice whether to give it." Deborah spent the night grappling with her emotions. She thought of the years she had spent in the forest, the strength she had gained, and the love she had found in Mama Joy. She realized that while Obi's actions had shaped her life, they did not define her. The next morning, she knelt before Mama Joy. "You've been more of a mother to me than anyone else. I'll always be grateful." Then she turned to Obi. "I can't forget what you did, but I can try to forgive." Deborah decided to leave the forest and return to the village with Obi. She wanted to reconnect with the world she had been torn from and use her skills to help others. Mama Joy blessed her journey, her pride evident. In the village, Deborah faced challenges. People whispered about the girl who had been abandoned and raised by a witch. But she held her head high, proving her worth through her kindness and skill. She and Obi began to rebuild their relationship, though it was not without its struggles. Over time, she learned to see the man behind the mistakes, and Obi worked tirelessly to earn her trust. Deborah also honored Mama Joy by establishing a small clinic, blending modern medicine with the traditional healing arts she had learned in the forest. Her clinic became a beacon of hope, attracting people from far and wide. Deborah's journey was one of pain, resilience, and transformation. She had been abandoned, but she had not been broken. She had found love in unexpected places, faced her past with courage, and carved out a future filled with purpose. Through it all, she carried the lessons of the forest and the wisdom of Mama Joy, proving that even in the darkest of times, there is light to be found, and that the human spirit, when nurtured, can overcome anything. Subscribe for more updates.